Good morning. Today is Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026, and this is the New Hampshire House of Representatives Municipal and County Government Committee. I am Representative Diane Power. The committee is convened today to exec the remaining bills before our committee. And at this time, I would like to ask you to silence your cell phones and please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance led by Representative Fracht. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I have a few brief morning announcements. As I said, the committee is convened today at 10:30 for executive sessions on the 6 remaining bills before our committee. And if necessary, we will break for lunch sometime around noon, and then we will continue if that is needed. So at this time, I will open the executive session on House Bill 1184 FN relative to the issuance of no trespass orders on municipal or school district property. And the chair recognizes Representative McDonald for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My motion is to pass Amendment 0756H.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. There's a second. And so I'll speak to that amendment. So this amendment came out as a result of our hearing on the bill. So I considered the feedback that we got with regards to the bill, and I worked closely with another member from this side of the aisle, if you will, to come up with this amendment. So what the committee amendment does is, generally speaking, I rewrote it and reorganized it so it was more straightforward and simpler to understand and to apply. And so the amendment basically does about 4 things. So first, it clarifies the emergency authority. So what that does is it says that a governing body or the governing body's designee is able to issue an emergency no trespass order when immediate action is needed. There's an emergency situation to protect public safety or, governmental operations or public property. So the key thing was that this emergency, the duration of that emergency no trespass order was extended from 24 hours to 72. We heard feedback that the 24 was insufficient. And then it also establishes that the certain requirements that the emergency order must contain, and that it has to be in writing. It has to state the date and time of issuance. It has to identify the public property, a factual basis, and state that the order is temporary and subject to review. And then the other provision is that the emergency NTO will expire after the 72 hours, and that there's the opportunity for the governing body to extend that beyond the emergency period. And that would require a 3/5 majority vote of the governing body. A simple majority is too low of a threshold, and I felt that unanimous was too high. So the 3/5 is in the middle. And this must happen at a duly noticed public meeting. And if this extension doesn't occur within the emergency period, it expires automatically, that the no trespass order in general. And again, This amendment establishes firm due process timelines, giving due process to the person against who it's issued, and it's pretty self-explanatory. And the last thing that the amendment does is it sets firm duration limits in that a no trespass order shall not remain in effect beyond 90 days of the original issuance. Because we've seen through the testimony that some no trespass orders, there's no due process, and no trespass orders are in effect for literally years. I'm aware of one that's going over 4 years. So that's about it. So I feel that this amendment gives balance to the no trespass order and addresses issues that we heard in the hearing. Comments? Representative Grund is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe you can clarify something for me. I don't believe, so one of the things I know with school boards, and I'm sure it happens with towns as well, there's reasons we go into non-public if we're going to disparage someone's reputation. Some of these NTOs could be considered disparaging someone's reputation. Is there any limitation on going into non-public for this information?
Yeah, my recollection is that the vote has to occur in a public meeting, but that there is a non-public session for discussion unless the person who the NTO is being issued against requests a public meeting. Further comments? Representative Murphy is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only question I have, if you have a 3-member select board, how do you get 3/5?
It would be two out of three.
Okay, should that be an or in there? I just, I know, I understand the 3/5, but
Further questions? I meant further comments. No. Seeing none, the motion before us is to accept Amendment 2026-0756H to House Bill 1184FN, and the clerk will call the roll.
Vice Chairman McDonald,
Yes, please.
Representative Guthrie,
Yes.
Representative Dolan,
yes.
Representative Alward,
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Franz,
Yes.
Representative Karazinski,
Yes.
Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Representative Walker,
Yes.
Representative Stavis,
Yes.
Representative Gilman,
Yes.
Representative Majori,
Yes.
Representative Frocht,
Yes.
Representative Colby,
Yes.
Representative Gerard,
Yes.
Representative Grund,
Yes.
Representative Harvey,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes. The amendment is accepted with a vote of 18-0. The chair recognizes Representative McDonald for a further motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move OTPA on HB 1184.
Is there a second?
Second.
Representative Walker seconds that. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
So I'll just briefly give a summary. So the bill with amendment gives immediate authority when it's truly necessary in the form of an emergency, no trespass order. It gives governing body oversight with supermajority approval. It requires written findings and documentation when issuing a no trespass order. It defines timelines, has an automatic expiration so as not to have a no trespass order that goes on for a long time. And it also provides for judicial review for long-term exclusions within the amendment. So I think that this bill is, it's a good thing. It's a needed piece of legislation because it it protects both public safety as well as due process rights of individuals for which a no trespass order is being issued against. Further comments? Representative Majority, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and I don't mean to steal the thunder from others that have asked the question, including my friend Representative Murphy, and I think Representative Gilman wanted to ask the same question, but what we just approved, and I'm for this bill. I didn't realize it until Representative Murphy just brought it up. What it says is the governing body shall approve by a 3/5 vote. Shall by 3/5. 2/3, a three-member board can't approve by 3/5. Will that create a problem? Because if somebody says, did you approve it by 3/5, you'd have to say no. I'm just wondering if we didn't just, if we needed to retweak the language, and I'm sorry that it's so late, but that's what others have thought too.
Okay, so my response to that would be, Representative Majority, did we not discuss this vote? We did. And so you and I had that conversation that the unanimous was too much and the simple majority was low, and that this amendment has been out, and my response would be, I wish that if there was concerns that would have been raised before right now, because obviously people looked at the amendment, but nobody said anything. So, there's a lot of parts and pieces to juggle, and if you feel that that's going to cause you not to vote for the motion OTPA, then that's valid. Representative Walker's recognized.
Well, giving the numbers, a supermajority for a three-person board is 2. That's why I hate boards of 2. I like 3. I'd rather have 5 or more on selectmen. But I think you're getting a supermajority with a three-member board. So I don't think that's a real problem.
Further comments? Representative Davis is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You had said that you were sorry that these comments didn't come up before, but they came up this morning. So in my book, they have come up and need to be dealt with. And I also support this bill, but I worry about the amendment, that it's going to lead to confusion. We've done a lot of tinkering with amendments with 2/3 and 3/5 and majorities, and municipalities are going to be confused.
So my suggestion would be, like I said before, if you're free to vote either way, the other option would be a floor amendment. So I would ask then, if it's appropriate, what do we want the vote threshold to be? Representative Grund is recognized.
So I understand what my fellow representatives are saying. However, 3/5 is 60%, two out of 3 is 67% or 66.7. So 2/3 is more than the 60%. So if you want to worry about the math works. It's just that it's 3 people, which is, as Representative Walker said, very limiting.
Well, I don't like 3 people too, but I don't.
Representative Colby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Perhaps a percentage is the answer. I don't know. Because there are also boards that are, greater than 5. So maybe if you have, everyone clearly has an appetite to pass the bill. It's just a matter of making sure the math works.
So it sounds to me like a floor amendment's in order. Representative Davis?
I think a floor amendment is in order, and we will consult with colleagues on what that percentage or number should be in order to not confuse municipalities.
For further comments, Representative Majori is recognized.
Madam Chair, just a question of process then. If we're going to do that, I don't know that we want to vote against the bill because we're for the bill. Do we vote in favor of the bill, but can we still then offer a floor amendment once we tweak to where we like?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I feel like the committee is in agreement with a floor amendment. So that would be the advisable way to proceed with regards to this bill, yes. And we could collaborate and come up with what that floor amendment's going to look like. That's satisfactory to the committee. Further comments? Seeing none, the motion before us is ought to pass with amendment. Is it 2026-0756 on House Bill 1184, and the clerk will call the roll.
Vice Chairman McDonald,
Yes.
Representative Guthrie,
Yes.
Representative Dolan,
Yes.
Representative Albert,
Yes.
the clerk votes yes. Representative Franz,
Yes.
Representative Karazinski,
Yes.
Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Representative Walker,
Yes.
Representative Stavis,
Yes.
Representative Gilman,
Yes.
Representative Majori,
Yes.
Representative Frocht,
Yes.
Representative Colby,
Yes.
Representative Gerard,
Yes.
Representative Grunt,
Yes.
Representative Harvey,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes. The motion passes with a vote of 18-0. The committee recommendation on House Bill 1184 FN is ought to pass with amendment, and that will go on consent, and I will write the report. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Let me look. No, I'm looking. I'm looking. Okay, so it says that it's less than $10,000, and that's the fiscal note. The LBA has determined that the legislation has a total fiscal impact of less than 10,000. So if it's greater than 10,000, it has to go on the regular calendar. So I would deem this eligible to go on the consent calendar. Oh,
My
right.
question has more to do with whether
with
there's
the
a
floor amendment.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, yes, okay. So no, I will put it on the regular calendar because. Correct. I mean, you could take it off of consent, but that wouldn't make any sense. So thank you for flagging that. I'm a little bit on autopilot here. So just to be clear, that bill will be on the regular calendar and we will be having a bipartisan floor amendment for that bill. And with that, the executive session on House Bill 1184 FN is closed. So Representative Stavis, would you be the point of contact for that, working on the floor amendment? So you and I could collaborate. Thank you. At this time, the chair will open the executive session on House Bill 1224 relative to the default budget for official ballot town meetings. Chair recognizes Representative McDonald for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to offer Amendment 0301H.
Is there a second? Representative Dolan seconds that, and I will speak briefly to the amendment. So the amendment corrects a number of drafting errors. Let me hold on. Oh, I thought it got passed out. So I apologize. I've been holding on to this for a while and I thought that I had distributed it. People received electronic copies and I'm just going to let this make it the hard copy, make its way around the table. So I'll just highlight what the amendment does. Like I said, it corrects a number of drafting errors that OLS did when the bill was originally drafted. So under section B, there was a drafting error where they omitted the word reduced twice, and that's been corrected. And then also within that section B, there was some confusing wording. It says, I believe it's on line 13, unless vacant before the previous year's approved budget. That was correct. I mean, that was clarified and reworded so it made more sense. And then under section 2 of the amendment, this change came out of the hearing, and it was a request coming out of that from the colleagues on the other side of the aisle here in committee, allowing that line items for public safety can be used for both overtime pay and contracted services. That seemed to make a lot of sense, so that was put in that section. And then at the end here, under section 3 of the bill, there's just some references that needed to be made to reference back to the previous page. And that's all that is. To account, it was completely skipped with regards to that new subparagraph. Exception for certain vacant positions. So generally speaking, as you all may recall, this bill was vetoed by the governor, and this bill was refiled in order to address the governor's concerns. So that's the sum and substance of the bill with amendment. Further comments? Representative Colby?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just really quickly, it identifies town positions with snow removal duties, page 2, lines 1 and 2. My concern is if you have people, vacant DPW positions that are necessary, we're eliminating the DPW section to just snow removal duties?
So that would be that's sounds like a hearing question, but I'll address that. And the reason why that was specifically put in is because of the governor's veto. So the prime sponsor specifically wanted to address that because that's what she highlighted in her veto message. So she was concerned about those sorts of positions. Representative Majori is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'll bring up two of my objections to the amendment, which is why I'll be voting against it. In line 11, it says vacant, well, in line 10, vacant before the previous year's budget was approved. Then in line as the sentence goes on, and have remained vacant reflecting the actual salary and benefits of filled positions as of the public hearing for the proposed budget, including any increases subsequent to the authorization of the previous year's budget. So I think we have a situation here where people are going to be asking who approved what when. And that's unclear. Does the budget committee's vote to approve the budget and then send it to the warrant article enough? Or is it the authorization that you get from the legislative body? And I think that the fact that it goes on in line 26 to say, in the middle of it, before the previous year's budget was approved, again, not authorized, but approved. So we have differences in words. On line 14, I do not like the word, and I'll read the sentence which begins on line 13. For the purposes of this paragraph, one-time expenditures shall be appropriations not likely to reoccur. Who makes the determination for what is not likely? I think that opens up the door to anybody saying, well, I don't know if this is likely or not, and creates a problem. You either put a hard stop or put a full go, but not likely is neither. And that's all I was able to get to so far. Thank you.
Representative Davis?
I would like to call attention to the phrase immediately following that. I'm just trying to find it here because there are so many words in this amendment. It's lines 14 and 15. And eliminated positions shall not include vacant positions under recruitment if vacancy occurred after the previous year's budget was approved as determined by the governing body. I just find this, frankly, a word salad. I don't know as a public official how I would interpret this, how I would practice it in real life. It just makes no sense to me. It seems contradictory in many cases, and I just don't understand it. And I don't understand why we're trying to confuse local public officials.
Representative Davis, I appreciate your comments, but you just made a statement that this amendment is trying to confuse local public officials. I don't think that you meant to say that, did you? Probably not. Representative Grund is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I agree with Representative Majori and some of his concerns. I am still very concerned about the open positions. Under recruitment, vacancy occurred after previous year's budget. I still am worried about which vacant positions might still be open. Superintendents you can look for them for over a year. Business administrators, town administrators, DPW directors, you're going to have interim, but you don't have a permanent. Now you're saying it's going to get eliminated. I just cannot agree with the amendment. I can't agree with the bill if it continues being worded this way. Transfers, if you're in a default budget, you're going to be transferring money to different line items to cover different things because you're in a default budget. What's considered a one-time transfer? What's considered a one-time transfer not recurring? You know, at some point we have to say there's a default budget that is in the RSAs currently. Maybe there are some things to be fixed, but this is, to me, opening up a lot of reasons to start cutting positions that should not be cut, but yet this says they will be, and there's going to be no choice, and that could be detrimental.
Further comments? Seeing none, the motion before us is to accept Amendment 2026-0301H to House Bill 1224, and the clerk will call the roll.
Vice Chairman McDonald,
Yes.
Representative Guthrie,
Yes.
Representative Dolan,
Yes.
Representative Albert,
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Franz,
Yes.
Representative Karasinski,
Yes.
Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Representative Walker,
Yes.
Representative Davis,
No.
Representative Gilman,
No.
Representative Majori,
No.
Representative Frocht,
No.
Representative Colby,
No.
Representative Gerard,
No.
Representative Grund,
No.
Representative Harvey,
No.
Madam Chair.
Yes. The amendment is Amendment 2025-0301H to House Bill 1224 is accepted with a vote of 10 to 8. The chair recognizes Representative McDonald for a motion, for a further motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move OTPA on HB 1224.
Representative Dolan seconds that. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you. I believe it's been previously discussed.
So I'll just briefly state that this bill with amendment clarifies and standardizes the statutory definition of a default budget under SB 2, and it ensures that default budgets reflect prior year appropriations, legally mandated obligations, and actual salaries and benefits of filled positions. It addresses inconsistencies in treating one-time expenditures, eliminated positions, and long-term vacancies, and it prevents the unintended inflation of default budgets, and it also serves to promote a uniform application across municipalities. And importantly, it creates a narrowly tailored exception for certain long vacant public safety positions in order to maintain essential services in accordance with the veto message with regards to this bill previously. And it, in my opinion, balances taxpayer protection with the needs to ensure that public safety staffing is maintained. Further comments? Representative Grund is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would like to address a comment made about unintended consequences of inflated default budgets. And I would say that I believe towns, school boards work very hard to make sure that they're following the current law. We're talking, again, I'm going to reiterate my concerns about open positions and unintended consequences from that. Transfers, if you're in a default budget situation, happen on a regular basis. Towns, school boards work with budget committees, advisory finance committees, ways and means committees, whichever group you have in your town, to work through what a default budget is, how it works, and we follow the RSAs, and I do not believe that they're unintended consequences of inflated budgets. Thank you. Or default budgets.
Representative Davis is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Following up on that comment and on an explanation that you just provided, that this bill seeks to prevent intentional inflation of default budgets by municipalities. How, in the amendment, does the addition of the public safety and DPW workers prevent intended or unintended inflation of the default budget? What's the mechanism to protect, as you say, taxpayer interests by adding that section?
Further comments? Representative Majori?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This bill will cause confusion in communities. They won't understand, or they won't have clarity on when something is approved and when something is authorized. That's going to create a problem. And I will tell you, as a former selectman for 15 years, and town positions with snow removal duties, we worked hard on making sure that the roles and responsibilities for town employees were specifically spelled out. The go-around in this is I'm going to add snow removal duties for every single position in town. And I'm not saying I will because I'm not on the board anymore. But if you want to get around this bill, every single position in town now will have snow removal duties included in their roles and responsibilities. Am I being snarky? Probably, but I've been on the planning board long enough and the select board long enough to know that good attorneys and folks find end arounds.
Further comments? Representative Gilman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to follow up with concerns about the lines at 14 and 15, which talk about positions that were approved or included. Let's see. We could get it right. That it's people, if you're looking for someone between budget years, like your proposed budget is carrying a vacant position because it was approved in the previous year's budget. But if it goes 2 years or 3 years empty, then there will not be one for you to look for. That position will no longer exist.
Further comments? Representative Colby is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have concerns that, based on some comments regarding how default budgets are being inflated, that we are writing legislation that is based on unsubstantiated claims and accusations, and I can't rightfully approve legislation to prevent misconduct, which at its current state is just alleged at this point. I didn't hear any evidence brought forth to indicate that this is an activity that is going on. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Further comments? So I do recall in the hearing that we see default budgets for those political subdivisions with SB2 that, and oftentimes the default budget is greater than the proposed budget that fails. And generally speaking, we see that these default budgets are within 1 to 2% of the proposed budget. So the default budget, by definition, is supposed to be a bare bones budget. So that's the problem, as I understand it, that these types of bills seek to address. Further comments? Seeing none, the motion before us is ought to pass with amendment number 2026-0301H on House Bill 1224. The clerk will call the roll.
Vice Chairman McDonald,
Yes.
Representative Guthrie,
Yes.
Representative Dolan,
Yes.
Representative Elbert,
Yes.
the clerk votes yes. Representative Franz,
Yes.
Representative Karazinski,
Yes.
Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Representative Walker,
Yes.
Representative Stavis,
No.
Representative Gilman,
No.
Representative Majori,
No.
Representative Frocht,
No.
Representative Colby,
No.
Representative Harvey,
No.
Representative Gerard,
No.
Representative Grund,
No.
Madam Chair.
Yes. The motion passes with a vote of 10 to 8. The committee recommendation on House Bill 1224 is ought to pass with amendment. That will go on the regular calendar. I will write the majority report. Will there be a minority report? Representative Gilman, thank you. And with that, the chair will close the executive session on House Bill 1224. Next, the chair will open the executive session on House Bill 1319, enabling towns, village districts, or school districts to adopt or rescind a local fiscal accountability committee for towns and schools. And the chair recognizes Representative McDonald for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My motion is ought to pass.
Is there a second?
Second.
Representative Dolan seconds that. So I will speak to the motion of ought to pass on this bill. So this bill is enabling legislation that gives towns, village districts, and school districts the option to adopt what is called a local fiscal accountability committee. This committee will help communities to be able to identify efficiencies, improve services, and offer potential cost savings in government operations to ensure that taxpayer dollars are used effectively. And what's important about this, what is the acronym is FACTS, is it's an independent, it's an independent committee that is independent of elected officials. That's the governing body or a finance committee or a budget committee, as well as any administrative staff that's preparing the budget. So this group independently can analyze and look at budgets, programs, different processes, and to be able to offer recommendations. Like I said, independently and without any conflict of interest. So the members of this committee, they serve staggered terms and they have certain duties and authorities given to them, such as they can participate in hearings, they can review budgets, and they can also provide recommendations on the warrant. And the other piece to this is that this FACTS is also available for co-op school districts for consistency. So the idea for this bill came from the governor's, I'm the prime sponsor, came from the governor's commission on government efficiency at the state level. And I thought that it would be a good idea and the opportunity to provide a similar tool at the local level to be able to review spending, like I said, identify efficiencies and suggest improvements. And again, I'd like to reiterate that this bill is flexible and it's voluntary. It's enabling legislation. So if it were to become law, political subdivisions, towns and school districts could choose to adopt it and use it as a tool in their toolbox or not. So in that sense, it's not a mandate. It's completely optional. Further comments? Representative Colby is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am opposed to this bill. We mentioned a lot of improvements that were potential in the initial hearing, such as addressing that it created a extra layer of government. This bill allows every member of the FACTS committee individually to contact any department head at any time, which will definitely impact, stall, and impede government services and is wildly inefficient. Most concerning is that we are giving more power to a committee than, or equal power given to a committee of volunteers than is afforded, or the same that is afforded for an elected budget committee. And that is very concerning, as these folks could be appointed and have similar powers or more powers than if a town has an elected budget committee also serving in this position. So while I respect and understand that it's enabling legislation, I think that it will cause a massive disruption. Thank you.
Further comments? Representative Grund is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I am also opposed to this bill. I don't understand what we're doing here. This group is supposed to identify best practices. They're an elected group of people, and they're not hired because of their expertise. We hire town administrators. We hire DPW directors. We hire directors of special education services because they are experts. So what are we doing here? Electing another group of people who we don't know if they're experts, coming in and going to review and decide what is a better way to do it. It's great to ask questions, but that's exactly what budget committees do. It's what school boards do. That's what select boards do. Prepare a budget proposal showing recommended changes. That's what budget committees do. That's what Ways and Means Committees do. That's what Advisory Finance Committees do. Another layer of oversight. Another part in here was rise to the removal of office. So we're going to bring people to Superior Court. Does this really rise to a level of theft if someone doesn't agree with what this group does? I don't get what we're so angry about. We have elected people and can be changed, but this goes too far.
Representative Majori is recognized.
I cannot emphasize enough how much I support Representative Grunn's every statement that she made. This is madness. This is, let's make government as big as we possibly can, which is antithetical to the Republican theory. And even what I think most anybody wants is a smaller, more efficient government. We just made it bigger. We now have multiple budgets going on the warrant article. We've got the approved budget. We've got the default budget, which could be amended by the budget committee, because they're going to have authority for it. Then we're going to have the fax budget on the voters are not going to know what the hell's going on, folks. I don't know what we're doing here, but when you look at the multitude of the machine gun of bills that we've had to try to fix what's going on in government, you've overcomplicated it. You have overinflated it. This is absolutely madness. And again, I'll put on my former select person hat. I'm not giving you anything for pertinent information. I'm not giving anything as a select member of the select board. You're going to have to ask me for it. I'm going to go to the town administrator. The select board is going to direct the town administrator to only give out information that is requested. You won't know if you have all the information. You won't know if you have all the information that went into, and I can't speak to the school side. I'll let my school friends do that. What went into the collective bargaining agreements? This is madness.
Representative Stavis is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't go into the level of detail that my friends in town government can go into, but I was chastised a few minutes ago for ascribing intent. I feel this entire bill and a range of bills that have come before us in this term ascribe intent in a way that is not warranted, not supported by facts, and not spoken to us or complained to us by any member of the public. There is an assumption here of intent, of evil intent on the part of local elected officials that they are going to cheat taxpayers out of their hard-earned money.
Representative
I do
Stavis.
not see any evidence proving that fact or the need for this facts commission.
Representative Stavis, I'll remind you that in your comments, you are now ascribing motive to legislation and the reason behind that a bill was filed. And as the prime sponsor of this bill, I would say that unfortunately you have the wrong understanding as to the intent of this bill. So I understand that some people don't like this bill, and that's their prerogative. But again, I would just ask that members refrain from ascribing intent of why a bill was filed. Representative Harvey is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not being on the committee when this bill was heard, I can't, maybe I'm not fully informed. However, in listening to some of the comments about, this Fiscal Accountability Committee would be able to ask questions and so forth. In my town, we have, all of our meetings are public meetings, and we have public hearings at the end of the budget session when the entire town can come and ask their questions and so forth. And at those public hearings, they are also welcome and encouraged even to present their ideas as to better ways that things can be accomplished and so forth. So what better mechanism is there than for the public itself to be able to offer their questions, their suggestions, their opinions, rather than to have to go through another made-up board and hope that their voices are heard. In my town, their voices are heard directly. So I don't see a need for this committee.
Further comments? Representative Majori.
I'll also say, maybe I'll move to a city because this doesn't go into a city.
That would be correct, and that was intentional. Further comments? Representative Gilman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have to agree with my fellow representatives about the confusion of the number of questions about a budget. It doesn't say in here, I don't believe, that if the fiscal committee comes up with a budget to be put on the warrant, does the fiscal committee also come up with a default budget? And and as they said, a properly run public hearing on the budget on the town warrant gives everyone the availability to comment and try to change. They can amend the budget if they want. I just don't see this another layer of election, one thing, and this another layer of government when we're trying to be as efficient as possible. Thank you.
Further comments? Representative Elward, do you have a comment?
You know, I do. I'm listening to people who sit on boards and are active in local government. I am the average citizen. I do not participate in that capacity, but I do attend public hearings, meetings, I read meeting minutes, etc. And we do not have quote unquote experts sitting on these boards and making these decisions. They are people from the community that are sometimes dragged kicking and screaming into a position that is vacant, and they participate to the best of their abilities. But given the types of appeals and the facts that going to these deliberative sessions, the suggestions are ignored, the comments are ignored. It's a act of futility to attend these types of meetings that are public. So I believe that an independent committee, this is enabling, would be perfect for my town, because people are champing at the bit to know the truth. Minutes are sanitized. We don't know what happened at the deliberative session because the unapproved minutes are not even posted to the website. Yet we're asked to consider warrant articles that were discussed at the deliberative session, or maybe were not, but we don't know because there's such a lack of transparency in my town. So I'm in favor of this kind of a committee.
Further comments? Representative Majori is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I forgot to follow up on a word that I heard before and I just heard again. I'm not sure what makes this body independent. They're going to be elected. They're going to serve. I'm not sure how they are any more independent than the elected budget committee, the elected select board, the elected whatever else you have in town. I don't know what mechanism makes them independent at all. So again, this is madness.
Representative Fracht is recognized.
I would add to Representative Majority's last statement that this new layer of government has the exact same qualifications, expertise, or lack thereof as the Budget Committee, Select Board, et cetera, that are already doing the job. Thank you.
Representative Grund is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll clarify, when I was talking about experts, I'm talking about experts, people that we hire are experts. We ask questions, we get information from them. There are groups that, again, we have advisory finance committees, we have budget committees that also work with these groups and ask many questions. Those are your experts. Another elected group only comes in to ask more questions, which I understand more questions can be good, but it also can be coming in with a purpose to undermine what is also happening and in place. I would like to also respond to the deliberative sessions warrant articles. They all by law have to be presented at public hearing and at deliberative session. They have to be presented by law. So if there's something that's not happening, there is something against the law happening in your town if that is the issue. Because it is absolutely positively required. So I don't understand. There's nothing. Again, this comes across as undermining and showing that there's like some lack of trust of things happening when we use the words like sanitized, like minutes are sanitized. They can be summarized. They don't go word for word. That's true, but they're not sanitized. I would be highly surprised by that. Again, if it is, then I would say something's happening against the law if they're sanitizing, because they have to show, by minimum, they have to show motions and the votes and discussions around those. So I'm not sure what's happening in other towns, but this just group comes, like having another group comes across as undermining relationships that are already there, and or relationships, groups that are there asking questions. A third layer is going to add votes to a warrant article of what they do. So now you've got 2 or 3 groups commenting. I just don't see how this is not going to be more confusing for a group, nor get to the bottom of what the concerns are.
Further comments that have not yet been stated? Representative Colby is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also have a concern with and I think it was mentioned before, but who is judging if a person or persons is violating the provisions on the for the facts committee, and how that determination will make its way to Superior Court to remove someone from office if they simply missed an email or what. There's no burden of overwhelming evidence. I'm not sure why we're expending money, because that money will be expended from a community, which I'm sure the facts committee would find to be a waste of money, I would hope. I also don't understand how you work a facts committee into the lengthy process that is starting in June of the previous year. So in June, towns and school districts will get together a CIP committee and discuss capital projects and make a decision there. And they might complete their work by September or August. And then it moves on to the department heads, and the department heads who have also started working on their budgets now know if their capital projects have been approved and put into CIP. So now I know that. At what point am I bringing in this facts committee? It is not clear. And at what point am I, as a town official or an elected official, violating the statute by saying, I'm working on the budget still. I don't have an answer to your question. It's altogether confusing. And then to add to that, you're adding so much time and work, and it is grossly inefficient. It is the antithesis of what this bill is trying to prevent: inefficiency.
Further comments? Representative Gilman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to say that we have seen default budgets just about every year. And what we hear is, it's not working in my town. It's not working in my town. It's not working in my town. My town doesn't do this. Well, I would say that instead of doing this, and I understand it's enabling, that people straighten out their towns and, demand transparency, demand, make yourself part of the process. I have none of these problems in my town. I hear other towns have, they don't show us this, they don't show us that. If you ask for it, then it happens. If you ask for it, then it happens permanently. My town never showed on our budget sheets what the default matters were. Now we do, because someone asked, show me what it is. And so we have a column that shows the default numbers and a column that describes why we're keeping it in or why we're taking it out. So, there are tools that you can just demand of your governing body and the budget committee. I just don't understand why this is necessary to have yet another elected body to look at and budgets, and does it deal with the default budgets? I'm not even sure you mentioned it in here.
Further comments? Representative Harvey is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I sit here, I think one of the takeaways is I am becoming more and more proud of my town of Chesterfield, because I was one of those people that sat on budget committees and library trustees, and many times I was the one that was taking the minutes. And the people in my town checked. They were at the library 5 business days after our meeting to make sure that the minutes were there. They were reading the minutes to make sure that the minutes were accurate as to what happened in the meeting and so forth. And if by any chance I did make a mistake, it was not because I was trying to sanitize anything. I just made a mistake. So I think that while yes, there are people who, as you say, the average citizen may not be as involved. It is up to the communities to be involved and to make sure that the things are happening the way they should be happening according to the law. And then there is no need for this kind of legislation. Thank you.
Representative Davis is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to ask if the Facts Commission is independent, does that mean that the elected governing body of the town is not independent?
Representative Majori is recognized.
Thank you, and I think this is new, because under the duties and authority under 40:71, Roman 7, you're allowed to reduce the amount of appropriations for that purpose to 0. So I'm not arguing in favor of this bill. There's nothing about it that I like, but you've allowed for zeroing out the budget that the Facts Committee is presenting. I'll say it again, this is madness. Voters are going to be completely confused, especially if they go to deliberative session and only 11 people show up and they zero out the budget of the Facts Committee, and then that is on the warrant article? I mean, that's a warrant article that's on the official budget? This is not efficiency. This is, I'm sorry, I can't vote for any of this.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Representative McDonald is recognized.
can we please call the question?
Yes, I think comments, I think we get a sense as to where everybody's at with this bill. Representative Colby, do you have a quick comment that's new?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Really quick. I just wonder what will happen and what kind of new governmental committee we are going to create if the newly elected Facts Committee is determined to not be delivering the information that certain segments of the voting population want to hear.
Representative Davis is recognized.
And following up on the bill that we just voted on, what if the Facts Commission zeroes out the budget of public safety officers, snow removal people.
Further comments? Seeing none, the motion before us is ought to pass on House Bill 1319. The clerk will call the roll.
Vice Chairman McDonald,
Yes.
Representative Guthrie,
Yeah.
Representative Dolan,
Yes.
Representative Alward,
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Franz,
Yes.
Representative Karazinski,
Yes.
Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Representative Walker,
Yes.
Representative Stavis,
No.
Representative Gilman,
No.
Representative Majori,
No.
Representative Frocht,
No.
Representative Colby,
No.
Representative Gerard,
No.
Representative Grund,
No.
Representative Harvey,
No.
Madam Chair.
Yes. The motion passes with a vote of 10 to 8. The committee recommendation on House Bill 1319 is ought to pass, and that will go on the regular calendar. I will write the majority report, and Representative Grund will write the minority report. And with that, the chair will close the executive session on House Bill 1319. At this time, the chair will open the executive session on House Bill 1355, relative to eliminating the default budget from the official ballot referenda. Chair recognizes Representative McDonald for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to offer Amendment 0695H to HB 1355.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
So I'll speak to this amendment. So generally speaking, what this bill, the amendment takes into consideration feedback that we heard after the bill hearing. And so one of the significant changes is that the option is given to the governing body to either accept what is called now a continuation budget, which is defined as last year's adopted budget, or they can hold a special meeting at which time a new operating budget will be discussed and debated. And that new operating budget shall be no higher than the proposed operating budget that failed. Additionally, there are shorter timelines in order to adopt an operating budget from the original bill. And so briefly, this shorter timeline, what does it look like? In the amendment, it establishes that the first session, if the governing body so chooses to have a special meeting, it shall be held 20 to 30 days after the balloting session. And also the second session of that 30 days after the first session of that special meeting. And the other provision with regards to this special meeting is if that special meeting does not approve an operating budget, that is that the operating budget fails yet once again, that the continuation budget will be adopted as the operating budget, which is defined as last year's adopted operating budget. And there's wording for the warrant article for that special meeting if the governing body so chooses. And So in general, what the amendment does is it takes a softer approach to the bill as filed. And I think that speaks generally to the amendment. Comments? Representative Gilman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see this bill as starting a race to the bottom. If the default budget is defeated one year, then you go to the previous year's budget. And and then there's no default budget, so you just have the previous year's budget. You can't give raises, you can't account for COLA, you're gonna lose people, and it's already hard to find people. And so every town every town is going to have difficulty, and you're gonna have to choose which town has the best amenities for you, but more and more towns are just gonna lose anything possible. They're not gonna be able to take care of their highways. They're not gonna be able to plow. They're not gonna be able to have a police department of adequate staffing. So this is just like I said, a race to the bottom. And I agree with the 144 people that signed on in opposition to this, as opposed to the one person that signed in to support.
Representative Grund is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we just discussed default budgets, and we're now, again, changing the exact same legislation and wording and getting rid of it. So why'd we bother even working on the prior budget or the prior bill? I don't know. So if we eliminate the default budget, we're going to have a second meeting. So we're going to have a cost of a second meeting, which includes, finding volunteers to do voter registration and all that other stuff again. So my understanding, my town is around $15,000 each time we hold a budget, or each time we hold a vote. So, okay, let's add another one. What happens if a budget's changed at deliberative? And now we have to change the default budget at the same time? Or does the default budget change or stay the same and now it's higher and now in conflict? Because budgets can change at deliberative sessions based on people who show up. So now what are we doing? The second special meeting for the timing, we at schools give out contracts for teachers, usually in April. So now you're past the time of whether you know what budget you have, so you know what contracts you can give or not give. This is why we have voting in March and we give out contracts in April. If the second time you bring forward a budget and it doesn't pass, you're going to drop your budget by 10%. In disregard of contracts, bond payments, any special education requirements. I don't know how in the world schools are going to survive, which I understand is part of the issue that wants to happen at this point anyway.
Representative Bajori is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I've heard many times in this committee that we've blamed OLS for language. This committee on a partisan vote just adopted a bill that used confusing language, in my opinion. One, it said approved, then it said authorized. Now in this bill, we go to adopted. What is it, folks? Which one are we looking for? The one that the Budget Committee or the Facts Committee or some other independent committee adopts? Or is it the one that is authorized to go to the warrant? Or is it the one adopted by the legislative body? I don't know.
Representative Colby is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Working off of starting a race to the bottom, I know of no business, whether for-profit or not-for-profit, that can thrive or even survive year over year with a potential lower and lower budget while you deal with increasing costs. And make no mistake, any municipality that gets stuck in this cycle will fail. Services and school districts provided by municipalities will fail. That will be the result of this legislation.
Further comments? Representative Davis is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually live less than 10 miles away from a failed town that went through a process very similar to this. It's the town of Grafton, New Hampshire, and I don't think I'm insulting anyone here in this room, but Grafton basically said to its governing body, no, you can't spend money. And so the black bear population exploded and started mauling people. Some people got killed. People moved away. The schools closed. A major historical church burned to the ground. It has never been rebuilt because there has never been a budget, authorized, approved, or otherwise adopted, to finance the running of Grafton, New Hampshire. Grafton, New Hampshire is a ghost town now, resulting precisely from this kind of confusing, intrusive legislation that is presented as something that is in municipalities' interests, but in actuality will destroy them.
Further comments? Seeing none, the motion before us is to adopt Amendment 2026-0695H to House Bill 1355. The clerk will call the roll.
Vice Chairman McDonald,
Yes.
Representative Guthrie,
Yes.
Representative Dolan,
Yes.
Representative Albert,
Yes.
the clerk votes yes. Representative Franz,
Yes.
Representative Karasinski,
Yes.
Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Representative Walker,
Yes.
Representative Stavis,
No.
Representative Gilman,
No.
Representative Majori,
No.
Representative Frocht,
No.
Representative Colby,
No.
Representative Gerard,
No.
Representative Grund,
Nope.
Representative Harvey.
No.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Amendment 2026-0695H is accepted with a vote of 10 to 8. The chair recognizes Representative McDonald for a further motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. OTPA on 1355, please.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Representative Karasinski seconds that. Would you like to speak to your motion, Representative McDonald?
I believe it's been fully discussed.
Further comments? Seeing none, the motion before us is ought to pass with Amendment 2026-0695H on House Bill 1355, and the clerk will call the roll.
Vice Chairman McDonald,
Yes.
Representative Guthrie,
Yes.
Representative Dolan,
Yes.
Representative Albert,
Yes.
clerk votes yes. Representative Franz,
Yes.
Representative Karasinski,
Yes.
Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Representative Walker,
Yes.
Representative Stavis,
No.
Representative Gilman,
No.
Representative Majori,
No.
Representative Frocht,
No.
Representative Colby,
No.
Representative Harvey,
No.
Representative Gerard,
No.
Representative Grund.
Nope.
Madam Chair.
Yes. The motion passes with a vote of 10 to 8. The committee recommendation on House Bill 1355 is ought to pass with amendment. That will go on to the regular calendar. I will write the majority report, and Representative Gilman will write the minority report. Thank you. And with that, the chair will close the executive session on House Bill 1355. This time, the chair will open the executive session on House Bill 1066 FN relative to warrant articles authorizing lease agreements. Chair recognizes Representative McDonald for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to offer to the committee Amendment 23H.
Is there a second? The chair, that is seconded by Representative Murphy. So I'll speak to the amendment. So this amendment is a result of feedback from the public hearing on the bill and subsequent conversations with stakeholders. So there's just two changes to the bill as filed. And the first one is that it increases the threshold of $100,000 for the requirement for holding a public hearing from, like I said, from $100,000 to $500,000. And that was done because I noted that when this, the dollar amount of $100,000 that was, I believe, done in, put on the books back in the 70s, and the $500,000 just reflects in inflation, and I feel like it's a more reasonable threshold. Additionally, the other change that was made to the bill as filed is on page 2. You'll see lines 7 through 10. There's additional language, and there was some concern that there was a conflict with regards to the statute with for energy performance contracts. So that was put in there just to ensure that with regards to the energy performance contracts, that if the funding for that lease was not available, that the lease would lapse. So that's just to cover that. Is there additional comments with regards to this amendment? Seeing none, the motion before us is to accept Amendment 2026-0923H to House Bill 1066FN, and the clerk will call the roll.
Vice Chairman McDonald,
Yes.
Representative Guthrie,
Yes.
Representative Dolan,
Yes.
Representative Aylward,
Yes.
the clerk votes yes. Representative Franz,
Yes.
Representative Karasinski,
Yes.
Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Representative Walker,
Yes.
Representative Stavis,
No.
Representative Gilman,
No.
Representative Majori,
No.
Representative Frocht,
No.
Representative Colby,
No.
Representative Gerard,
No.
Representative Grund,
No.
Representative Harvey,
No.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Amendment 2026-0923H to House Bill 1066FN is accepted with a vote of 10-8. Chair recognizes Representative McDonald for a further motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move OTPA on HB 1066.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Representative Murphy seconds that. So I will speak to the motion of ought to pass with amendment. So this bill was filed at its core to address concerns with regards to current statute. It's RSA 33-7E which governs lease agreements of equipment with escape clauses. So the purpose of that RSA is to allow municipalities to lease equipment. And the problem is that we see that this statute is being used improperly, and it's being used to lease very costly building improvements that may include equipment. So the problem becomes, like I said, the purpose of 33-7E is leasing equipment, with an escape clause. And equipment are items that can be returned. So if you escape from the lease, you can return the items. The problem that we're seeing, and I did when I introduced this bill, is I handed out a list of 30 examples of warrant articles in which 33.7E is being used improperly, and it's being used to lease significant building improvements, like I said, including some equipment, and that these items, including the equipment, they are installed such that they become fixtures. They become part of the real property. And at that point, it is no longer equipment. And as you recall, the issue is that you can't return such items. So once items like elevators, boilers, HVAC, lighting, windows, they're installed and they're integrated into a building, they become fixtures. And under New Hampshire RSA 38-382-A:9 through 102, fixtures is defined as goods that have become so related to a particular real property that an interest in them arises under real property law. So again, I state that to reiterate that when a piece of equipment is installed, that it becomes a fixture, it's improper to use RSA 33.7E to finance such a project. So I would further say that if a town leases a boiler for a school and then chooses not to appropriate in year 3, are you going to take out that boiler in January? If an elevator is leased and installed in a building, can you practically rip it out and repossess it without rendering the building in part unusable? So it's obvious that there's an issue. So the other thing with regards to this bill is that it does not eliminate leasing authority at all. So entities are able to lease items using 21I-19-B, actually -D, excuse me, under energy performance contracting, they can still do that. And additionally, there's a section in this bill that's very explicit that covers leasing with and without escape clauses for items that become fixtures. So that's the reason for this bill. So in summary, this bill is about maintaining the line between leasing movable pieces of equipment that can be returned and financing items that become fixtures under 33.7E. So open to further comments, Representative Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to note that this is not a new bill. This bill came before us in 2023, I believe. It was vetoed by Governor Sununu in 2024 and tabled by the House in 2025. And it basically eliminates a mechanism that towns need and must have in order to make improvements through leasing that they cannot otherwise afford, and those costs would then fall on the backs of taxpayers. I oppose this bill.
So my comment to that was, as you recall, when this bill, well, it doesn't, that's fine. I will say my own comments. So when this bill was originally filed, it was worked on extensively with the New Hampshire Municipal Association. And as members who are here recall, it came out of this committee on consent. And yes, it was vetoed by the governor because the governor, as reported to me directly, did not understand the bill. And yes, it's an important bill, and it was refiled, and unfortunately, it was tabled by somebody in my own party because, again, they did not understand the bill. So here we are again. I have taken into account all the feedback that I have gotten, and this is an important bill to New Hampshire taxpayers because, as you heard during the hearing, that this RSA 33.7E is being used improperly, and it's being used improperly to the in a way that we are municipalities and school districts. They are financing multi-million-dollar projects on a simple majority vote under a lease agreement of equipment with an escape clause. And as I said, I handed out a handout that has 30 examples of this misuse, and it's very clear that the use of that statute for those types of projects makes 0 sense. And I would further add that we have one example in Timberlane where the project was, I believe, $25 or $26 million, and it was done under a lease agreement of equipment with an escape clause, and that cost taxpayers at the time that that was passed over $6 million more had that financing mechanism been utilized to bond that massive project. Representative Grund is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to, I'm going to say, these leases being used in this way improperly is just an opinion. It is not necessarily a fact. It has not been heard in court and determined that they're being used improperly. But these leases, again, we did hear this last session, and the things that we heard was that this was a lower cost option for energy improvements because people could use the savings from these leases, from the savings from the energy improvements to pay off the leases sooner. So that was an important piece that I remember and wrote down. We also heard that the state uses these leases. So I don't know if this is going to eliminate the state being able to use these leases. And there's some confusing language in here. I barely got through was the amendment, so I'm just going to let it go at this point. But one of the last line items is talking about treating the voting in the town meeting by secret ballot. So we're treating it like a bond. And I'm not sure if that is necessary either. Thank you.
Representative Colby is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree that oversight is important and it is appropriate, but it's only appropriate when it's grounded in fact. We don't like when legislative intent is ascribed to our bills. We hear it a lot, as we heard today. And I don't think it is in good fashion for anyone on this committee to ascribe intent of municipalities by stating that they are improperly using leasing. And I'm very concerned that, again, another inflammatory claim is being made that we have no evidence of, except an opinion and I cannot base legislation on opinions.
Once again, RSA 33.7E is for equipment. Equipment are items that can be returned, that are movable, that are not so installed that they become a fixture. So that's the legislative intent of a lease agreement of equipment with an escape clause. It's pretty straightforward and understandable, and I won't reiterate the myriad of evidence as to how this is being used improperly. that is, if you don't agree with it, if people don't agree with it, that's fine, but there's plenty of people that do agree with, the use of that lease agreements of equipment with an escape clause. And I would also like to reiterate that any type of energy performance contract under 21I-19D is still available to be used. That is not changed at all by this bill, and Representative Majori is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm looking forward to NHMA's next, or I'm looking forward to NHMA's calendar next year to see how all of these public hearings are going to happen with the facts committee, with this, with the leave. It should be interesting.
Further comments? Representative Gilman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to say that sometimes lease agreements are, what's included in them is maintenance agreement. And if we cut off lease agreements with non-escape clauses, et cetera, or escape clauses and the other word, that we are in danger of having to pay more money to repair something that we are now owning if it passes.
Representative Stavis is recognized for a comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your forbearance in taking these comments. They are well-intended, even though they may seem not to be. But as I survey the landscape of bills that we have been discussing this morning, I just see the bills mounting up. I see the costs going up and up and up for municipalities across the state and for individual taxpayers, and I see the individual taxpayers' rights being eroded at every step. And so that, to me, is a very dangerous combination, and this bill is yet another example of that.
Further comments? Seeing none, the motion before us is ought to pass with Amendment 2026-0923H on House Bill 1066FN, and the clerk will call the roll.
Vice Chairman McDonald,
Yes.
Representative Guthrie,
Yes.
Representative Dolan,
Yes.
Representative Elwood,
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Franz,
Yes.
Representative Karasinski,
Yes.
Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Representative Walker,
Yes.
Representative Stavis,
No.
Representative Gilman,
No.
Representative Majori,
No.
Representative Frogt,
No.
Representative Colby,
No.
Representative Gerard,
No.
Representative Grund,
No.
Representative Harvey,
No.
Madam Chair.
Yes. The motion passes with a vote of 10-8. The committee recommendation on House Bill 1066FN is ought to pass with amendment, and that will go on the regular calendar. I will write the majority report, and will there be a minority report? Representative Colby, thank you. And with that, the chair will close the executive session on House Bill 1066FN. Next, the chair will open the executive session on House Bill 1113, enabling towns to establish a 3-year term for town moderators. Chair recognizes Representative Murphy for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to offer Amendment 2026-0806H.
Is there a second?
Second.
Representative Dolan seconds that. Representative Murphy, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Yes, it still allows for the moderator to have a 3-year term, but it amends it goes into 41:1-A versus the 40:1. And also it has the it also goes into the provision of 671:11-A.
Comments? Seeing none, the motion before us is to accept amendment 2026-0806H to House Bill 1113. The clerk will call the roll.
Vice Chairman McDonald,
Yes.
Representative Guthrie,
Yes.
Representative Dolan,
Yes.
Representative Alward,
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Franz,
Yes.
Representative Karasinski,
Yes.
Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Representative Walker,
Yes.
Representative Stavis,
No.
Representative Gilman,
No.
Representative Majori,
No.
Representative Frocht,
No.
Representative Colby,
No.
Representative Gerard,
No.
Representative Grund,
No.
Representative Harvey,
No.
Madam Chair.
Yes. The amendment 2026-0806H to House Bill 1113 is accepted. And do I have a further motion? Chair recognizes. Oh, did I forget? I forgot to say. Oh, I apologize. Let me rewind. Amendment 2025-0806H to House Bill 113 is accepted with a vote of 10-8. Is there a further motion? The chair recognizes Representative Murphy.
Madam Chair, I'd like to offer House Bill 1113 amendment ought to pass with amendment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Representative Dolan seconds that. Representative Murphy, would you like to speak to your motion?
Not at this time.
Other comments? Representative Majori is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. With this bill now, we're creating a patchwork. This town's going to have 2, this town's going to have 3. It could be rescinded, it can go back. I don't know what was the problem with 3. But we just should have gone with 3. I understand, I understand the conversation that we had, that we heard about things, but we did this when we went to all the county seats. We might as well go back to all those bills and say 3 or 4 or 2. Let's make a decision. We either have a hard stop or a hard go.
Further comments? Representative Stavis is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do recall from the hearing that a member of the staff of the Attorney General's office testified and made statements about moderators who were not fulfilling their roles properly. He did not use those words. He actually used the words misbehaving. And when he was asked what evidence he had of that and what specific cases, he said he was not aware of any.
Further comments? Representative Gilman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the text of the amendment, what's used is that the voters can determine if it's going to be a 2-year or 3-year term. And I would just like to know how you put that question on the ballot.
I will answer that question. So when the question is placed on the ballot, a length of term is selected. Further comments? Representative Grund.
All right, I'm having a hard time opening up my amendment here but adding on to Representative Gilman's question, does it say in the amendment what the wording of the warrant article is? And if it doesn't, then how do they place it on the ballot? I mean, I guess they can come up with whatever wording they want, which is not necessarily how we have done many warrant articles. I would also like to add that I was in favor of the 3 years because of, again, it was a determined amount. We heard, we talked about supervisor checklist is 6 years because there is extensive learning. We know school boards, selectmen, they're all 3 years. So the question was, why not 3 for moderators? I was in favor of. Now that towns can choose all over the place, 2 or 3, I'm hesitant. Thank you.
Further comments? Representative Colby is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too would have been completely supportive of the original bill.
Further comments? Representative Gilman?
I would like to correct my statement. The manner of electing 2 or 3 terms is in the bill.
Further comments? Seeing none, the motion before us is ought to pass with amendment 2026-0806H to House Bill 113. The clerk will call the roll.
Vice Chairman McDonald,
Yes.
Representative Guthrie,
Yes.
Representative Dolan,
Yes.
Representative Aylward,
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Franz,
Yes.
Representative Karasinski,
Yes.
Representative Murphy,
Yes.
Representative Walker,
Yes.
Representative Stavis,
No.
Representative Gilman,
Yes.
Representative Majori,
No.
Representative Frocht,
No.
Representative Colby,
No.
Representative Harvey,
No.
Representative Gerard,
Yes.
Representative Grund,
No.
Madam Chair.
Yes. The motion passes with a vote of, what was that? 12 to 6? Okay. The committee recommendation on House Bill 1113 is ought to pass, and that will go on the regular calendar, and Representative Murphy will write the majority report.
Correct.
And will there be a minority report? It's optional. No? Okay. And with that, the chair will close the executive session on House Bill 1113. Yeah, but he's supposed. So that concludes our publicly noticed work for today, and that wraps up our work on all 81 House bills referred to this committee. So the deadline to submit the committee reports is tomorrow. That's a House deadline. So I will need all reports due to me, the chair, by 8 p.m. tonight. So a note on that is that that's a hard deadline because there are a number of pending House bills that need to go through the pipeline. And if I do not receive a report, then that report does not exist. And therefore, it won't move forward in the pipeline and appear in the calendar. So our committee here will meet next at the call of the chair, which will be most likely sometime after crossover. Right now, we have 6 Senate bills referred to this committee, and I would prefer to wait until we have a full day's work. So that is to be determined based on how many bills this committee gets. So therefore, members should be attentive to both the House calendar as well as your email for both House sessions and committee meetings. And lastly, I would like to thank everyone for their perseverance in completing our committee work up until this point, and your professionalism and cooperation are very much appreciated. Any questions? No. Okay, so thank you. And with that, our meeting is now adjourned.